Hi students, today we'll be learning about different sine and cosine properties. So let's take a look first here. Just to go over some definitions, amplitude is half the distance between the highest and the lowest points, A. So from here to the lowest point, highest point, lowest point, half the distance. So you can think of it from the middle to the top or from the middle to the bottom. That is the amplitude. So you can think of it as how high or how low the graph will go. For period, it is the length of one cycle. So if you start from the middle, go up, down, back to the middle, and then it will repeat. You don't have to start here. You can start from the bottom. So bottom, go up, go down. Now repeat, go up, go down. Whenever it starts repeating, before it repeats, that is one cycle or one period. The number of cycles in 2 pi is b. And we usually use that to think of the frequency, like how many cycles are within 2 pi, that is our frequency. Horizontal shift, how much did it move to the right or to the left is the horizontal shift. We sometimes also call this the phase shift. So just so you know, it can be called horizontal shift or phase shift. And then the vertical shift is K, how much did it go up or down. This is from IXL. I think it's a really good explanation. When you get it wrong, they will show this to you. So whenever you have the formula here, A, the absolute value of A is the amplitude. For period, it is 2 pi divided by the absolute value of B. The frequency, as you can see here, is the reciprocal of the period, or you could also think of it as how many cycles within a given time range, usually 2 pi. And then for phase shift or horizontal shift, it is negative C. So negative C value divided by absolute value of B. And then vertical shift is just D here, okay? And vertical shift. Now let's try an example. So here we have negative 4 sine of 2x over 3 plus 4 pi over 9 plus 1. I'm going to write it with the constants a, b, c, and d so I can work with it a little easier. A is usually the easiest. You just take the absolute value of A. So absolute value of negative 4 is positive 4. The period is 2 pi divided by absolute value of B. Since it's positive already, it's just positive 2 over 3. So 2 pi divided by 2 over 3 is multiplied by 3 over 2. The 2's cancel. Then I just have 3 pi as my period. For the frequency, remember it is the reciprocal of the period. So I could take absolute value of B divided by 2 pi. And it will get me 2 over 3 times 1 over 2 pi. 2's cancel again, 1 over 3 pi. Once again, if you knew that it was a reciprocal, you could just take the reciprocal of the period, so 1 over 3 pi. Phase shift, that is negative C divided by B. Let's do vertical shift first. It's a little easier. You see the plus 1 there. That is D. That is a vertical shift. It'll move up 1 unit. So negative C is negative 4 over 9 divided by absolute value of B, which is 2 over 3. So 4 over 9 multiply 3 over 2. We can simplify, and then we will get negative 2 over 3, and that will be our phase shift. Actually, I forgot the pi there. C was negative 4 pi over 9, so our answer will be negative 2 over 3 pi. Like always, for IXL, if you get a problem wrong, it will show you how to find the correct answer, so please make sure you read through it if you don't know how to do a problem. Here's an example of what the answers look like. All right, let's try a problem for cosine. So same thing, write the equation with the constants. So a cosine of bx plus c plus d. So what is a? There's no number there, so we know it is 1 because 1 multiply cosine is just the cosine. And it's also very easy to find the vertical shift, which is the last number there, plus 4, which is d. So it went up 4. Now, what is the period? Period is 2 pi divided by absolute value of b. So 2 pi divided by absolute value of 3 over 2. And when you divide by a fraction, you can multiply by the reciprocal. 2 pi times 2, 4 pi divided by 3. And remember the frequency, we can just take the reciprocal of the period, so just flip that, it's 3 divided by 4 pi. Now for the phase shift, we take negative c, well it's already negative, so it'll become positive, pi over 4 divided by absolute value of b, which is absolute value of 3 over 2. When we divide by that, we flip it and multiply, so 2 over 3. Simplify, we'll get pi over 6. All right, so for some problems, you might have a graph and then you will need to find the equations. So let's take a look at the basic sine graph and the cosine graph first, and then we'll look at how to transform them later. Sine starts with the middle at 0. Cosine starts with the highest point at 0, and then one period ends at 2 pi. One period ends at 2 pi, but starting from the high point, low to high, but middle, high, low, back to middle for sine. This is sine, this is cosine. They are the same thing except just shifted to the left or to the right, however you want to think about it. But it continues to repeat as a wave. All right, let's look at a graph now and see if we can write the equation using the graph. So first thing I would look at is usually look for A, which is the amplitude, and see how high it goes. So from the middle of the graph to the top, it is 2, so I know that the amplitude is 2. Or you could look at the lowest point to the highest point and divide it by 2, that is also your amplitude. Then I see if it went up or down, and since the middle is at 0, I know that D is 0, so there's no shifting up, no vertical shift, no up or down shift. Then I see if it shifted to the left or the right, which is C, and because I know that the sine graph, the middle right there crosses at 0, so also no shift. Now for B, I checked how many cycles are within 2 pi. And because I went up, down, and back up, and then it repeats like that, it is only one cycle, so B is 1. Now I pretty much just fill it in for the equation. So A is 2, and then sine of x, because 1x is just x. And then because C and D are 0, I don't have to put anything else. If I wanted, I could put a parentheses around the x. I don't have to, and that is your answer, 2 sine x. Now let's look at a graph of cosine. Cosine, the highest point, starts at 0, 0, which is true, so I know there's no phase shift. Find the middle and see how much it goes up by and how much goes down by, or look at the bottom and the top, divide by 2. The amplitude is 2 because from 4 to 6, the middle to the top, it is 2. So amplitude is 2. Now, if I look at whether it went up or down, the center of the graph we see is at 4. So obviously the graph went up, and we went up by 4 spaces because the center should be at 0. So it went up 4, which means D is equal to 4. And then for the phase shift, C, we can tell that it did not go left or right because the highest point is there at 0, 0, so no shifting from left to right. C is going to be 0. And for B, we're going to have to check how many cycles within 2 pi. So we go up to down and up, and it repeats. And now we check where 2 pi is. Now up to down and up, and then repeat. So that was only one cycle within 2 pi. So that means B is just 1. So A is 2, D is 4, C is 0, B is 1. And I just fill that into my equation. So 2 times cosine of B, which is 1, 1x, or just x, and then close parentheses, because C is 0, we don't have to write it, and then plus 4, which is D. And that is how we get the answer from the graph.